Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 68 Dissonant Waves. My name is Dominic.
Hey,
Trix is here. Fritz is not.
indeed.
Fritz is recovering from the first shot of the vaccine. The vaccine is finally penetrating Australia to a larger rate that he's finally able to get it, which is nice.
Yeah, very, very nice.
In the meantime, though, we wish him well. Hope he recovers pretty quickly. But we have three different albums to talk about tonight.
Yep.
We got The Temper Trap, Conditions, Oingo Boingo's Dead Man's Party, and then, of course, of Montreal's Paralytic Stalks.
Yes.
Let's talk about Temper Trap.
This is the boiled chicken and white rice of indie albums.
And by that you mean it's incredibly generic and just it is what it is.
Yeah, it is boring. It is plain. It is inoffensive. It gets the job done.
I fully agree. It's fine. Sweet Disposition's a fine song.
Yeah.
I kind of like Soldiered On a little bit. Some
Soldier On is the low point for me.
Okay, that's fair. Some other points here and there are interesting. Like maybe kind of like I kind of remember bits of Love Lost and Fader and Rest have some moments and all that fun stuff. Drum song is a cool little instrumental ending.
Yeah, I think Resurrection is where it starts to kind of like pick up for me a bit more.
And
I'm like,
Resurrection,
okay, I can kind of appreciate this.
Fools into Resurrection is where I completely I completely just lose interest. Honestly,
That's totally fair.
Resurrection is
Yeah,
probably
this
the
is
song I remember the least.
I think this is the most milquetoast album we've ever done.
Even well, you like Tristan, so this is your Tristan. I'm gonna guess.
Yeah, I guess you can call Tristan milquetoast. I guess.
For what Ritz and I thought was pretty milquetoast and just fine. And I kind of
Yeah.
prefer this over Tristan, honestly, but
Damn.
at least over Sneaker Waves. But like not a ton.
That's fair.
Like let's give it its due. Let's try to talk about it a little bit. We're only not even 3 minutes into this recording, so
Yeah.
let me get my notes out here. Let's see. Yeah, debut album. They're very indie rock. I think Ritz said this is like what his mom likes to listen to, which I can see. It's very like
It does kind of scream mom rock.
it's very inoffensive, like you said, and just kind of nice to listen to in a way.
Yeah.
We found out, or I found out at least, that both this and Paralytic Stalks have a 4.6 on Pitchfork. But this was nominated for the ARIA of the Album of the Year, of course.
Yes.
Let's see. The singer is Dougie Mandagi. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. He's from Indonesia. He is the great nephew of their national hero Ari Frederick Loust. That's interesting. You know, he was a busker in the '90s in Melbourne, kind of like a Shaky Graves in a way.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah, and then kind of formed a band with his friends over time that he met.
Yeah.
They moved to the UK once things started picking up for them to finish recording this album and kind of explore the scene there. But they are from Australia. They are from Melbourne.
Gotcha.
It's one of those albums that has like a weird like international release track listing that's different than the original, but they're just renumbered for some reason and reordered.
Yeah, I listened in U.S. order.
I listened to both. There was no real noticeable difference between either one. Like I guess that the hits are kind of more lined up in the international order, but like okay, Faders moved down to the middle of the album, big deal.
Yeah.
Sweet Disposition was like their first single, like kind of their first big thing. It was in like 500 Days of
It's
Summer.
a strong debut.
Yeah, it was in 500 Days of Summer, as Ritz mentioned. FIFA 10, Dirt 2, all that stuff. 3 Days to a Kill, a movie with like Pierce Brosnan in it. And this is one of those albums that got like remixed a bunch by different people, like Adam Freeland has a remix.
Yeah, there's a whole remix album.
Yeah. Like, the song Fader was in Tomorrow When the War Began, an Australian film. The Roommate, MLB The Show, 11, Test Drive Unlimited 2. So Fader has gotten some like notice for at least some stuff, which is I guess cool.
Yeah.
Really struggling to talk about much, but
I mean, this is I'm sure if Ritz were here, he'd talk about how his like his mom likes it, but
Yeah, and why he got into it at all, and why he brought it to the podcast.
yeah,
But let's see.
uh,
Yeah, he's been out of it. He doesn't even. Fine,
yeah,
that's totally fine with us.
it is.
It'll be interesting to hear his thoughts about Paralytic Stalks. I'm sure, especially paired with what I'm choosing for next week.
Oh yeah,
But let's see. Love Lost, I compared to like a U2 song to kind of give a idea of where we are.
yeah, I could see that.
Like it's just kind of like, yeah, this is like kind of sounds not inspirational, but kind of leaning towards that, and very basic rock, low key, but nothing amazing.
Th- This sounds like it would become pre-installed in an iPhone.
You know, we should do that album at some point, but like this would probably be more inoffensive, and people would not have cared as much.
Yeah,
Rest has like a weird low beat to you have to really listen to in the mix to get it in at the very beginning, and it kind of shifts into something.
yeah,
Um, Falsetto wasn't bad. The singer does a decent job. My notes here are again not bad, but very generic indie. Well, I'm going based off of the
yeah,
original track listing. We got Sweet Disposition, the Bill Big Hit, the kind of a road song, got a decent groove. Again, I was kind of thinking of like Block Party, kind of other indie acts, kind of dancier acts at this time, especially in the UK.
yeah. Like to bring back my boiled chicken and white rice, they don't really throw anything extra at you. It's like you get it does what it says in the tin. You don't really get anything like any like weird curry screwballs or whatever.
And no spices,
Yeah,
maybe a little bit of just pepper, but even then,
but
like
not too much. That'll
no,
make it too spicy.
correct, just a little bit of pepper. But even though like even when for Sweet Disposition, I'm like this is nice, but even this is not like amazing, 10 out of 10, top tier. I need to listen to like like a million songs by these people.
Yeah,
There's a part of me that's kind of like, hey, if this band got more popular or got more notice, it would kind of be like a Maroon 5.
yeah, I could see that.
And like it's kind of nice. You can kind of listen to it, sure, but like it's very just there. And some of the songs, maybe if you listen to them too much, you might not like them. But
Oh, fucking Memories by Maroon 5. Oh my god, I gouge my eyes out every time I hear that fucking song.
I feel that way about Soul Sister. I understand.
Uh, it's just fucking Pocket Bell's Cannon on that fucking acoustic guitar, and just the fucking fucking shoot me.
Yeah, I could see this as like being some album that everyone liked because it came on the radio, and none of the songs were bad enough to be like horrible, but nothing was amazing enough to be like controversial.
Yeah,
This didn't quite reach that level, but I can totally see that happening. Let's see. And Downriver here. Downriver acoustic opening. Sounds like a sequel to the last song, Sweet Disposition, I guess. Don't remember why. They have some voices in the background, which I guess were interesting to me when I listened to this. Oh, this is where they have horns. This is where they have glockenspiel. So they do start experimenting a little bit with instruments, which is cool.
yeah,
Soldier On, the other song that I thought was pretty interesting. Not as even as good as Sweet Disposition, but I'm looking for something to grab onto here.
I totally get you.
Soldier On, more mellow. There's a falsetto there that's kind of nice. It kind of shows off the singer's ability to sing. I thought like it was a good vocal showcase. That Fader is organy. It's kind of got that. Burr, 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 burr.
Yeah,
Fine. Kind of a happy song, and as a fade out, songs that have fade outs always kind of controversial.
yeah,
Fools. Percussion is nice. It sounds kind of more muted in the beginning and then kind of gets more clear as it goes on. Nice piano part. Resurrection has some falsetto, some vocal harmony there. Tricks, are you awake?
yeah. I'm awake. I was about to comment on Resurrection. Resurrection is where I kind of like started to like be like, all right, there's a little bit more here.
Yeah.
Like I noticed that like it was getting a little bit more aggressive sounding.
Remind me of Big
Um,
Scary a little bit.
yeah, yeah, I could definitely see that. And the Science of Fear, I actually kind of remember really enjoying, and I don't really remember Drum Song. But
Drum song was interesting only because it was instrumental percussion.
yeah, that's right. That's right. That's why I don't remember it because I always tune out at drum solos.
Science of Fear, I definitely fell asleep during when I was listening to it for notes. Yeah, drum song I thought was at least an interesting way to end it, being that it's a drum solo. That's at least
Yep.
a different take, which of an album like this desperately needs. I think.
Yeah.
It's not exactly. I wouldn't say it's exactly a 4.6. I wouldn't go that far, but I do think it's
No, a little higher, but
like a 5 at least.
yeah.
Like this is totally fine. If you put on Sweet Disposition, I would not be upset. Put on any of these songs, I wouldn't be
Yeah.
horribly offended.
It's good radio fodder.
Yeah, when you want something on the radio, nothing really going on, you just need something in the background, this will be fine. Maybe not in like a Japanese
Yeah.
breakfast kind of way, or whatever band that was Red Set has listened to, or group or artist.
Japanese wallpaper.
Yeah, Japanese Wallpaper, my bad. Or that was very much like a song, like an album you appreciate in the background. But this is just kind of like, yeah,
Yeah.
this is waiting room music. This is the stuff that you're like,
Doctor's office.
you're like, oh yeah, I kind of know that song. Like
Yeah.
the modern equivalent. I was kind of reading an article about this today. The modern equivalent's kind of like the stomp clap music,
Yeah.
like the Lumineers or whatever. Mumford and Sons, just like blah
Yeah.
blah.
Which
Hey,
since you mentioned Mumford and Sons, I have to talk about how their banjo player said unintentionally the funniest fucking thing ever when he got ousted for being a racist.
what?
And it was, as a banjo player, I've experienced a lot of discrimination, which is objectively the funniest thing anybody has ever fucking said.
Well, it was his fault. He decided to play the banjo. If only he had learned and picked a better instrument.
Yeah, like I'm gonna learn the banjo, but just as a joke. So
Yeah, don't blame the banjo. If you're gonna blame anything, that's like the worst thing to blame it on. Yeah, I got
yeah.
discriminated against because I play the banjo. I'm sure that's it, buddy. I'm sure that's it. Um,
Uh,
I think is there anything really else to talk about? Like we're kind of reaching 15 minutes here at least, so that's something.
yeah. I mean, this is just a inoffensive album. I mean, you could play it for anybody, and they'd be like, oh yeah, this is good.
This is definitely the album that right. I feel like Ritz can comfortably skip out on in a way. Just like it is what it is.
Yeah, he'd probably have some better takes than we do, but
Yeah, he can get into that on his own time, like next week. But for me,
yep.
like I said, my favorites are Sweet Disposition and kind of Soldier On, but even then. And my notes say Resurrection was good, so I'll kind of believe that. And say my least favorite's probably like, I don't know, Downriver. We'll say that.
Yeah. Least favorite was Soldier On. Favorite The Resurrection.
Okay. That was. I feel like that was a really quick look at the temper traps condition, but it's an album that necessitates it. So, Tricks, then. Tell me about the Dead Man's Party. Tell me about Oingo Boingo.
I'm gonna be honest. I got into Oingo Boingo recently, and I kind of like I've known about them. Like you know about Oingo Boingo if you even if you don't know Oingo Boingo, like you know
Right,
Danny Elfman, you've known the work that he's done after the fact,
right.
and all of the different soundtracks he's scored for everything, and
Yeah, I've heard it being like, oh
that
yeah, he's the guy from Oingo Boingo. Yeah, that's like 80s trivia.
yeah, and I've I've had like a Talking Heads radio on or something like that, or just like an '80s radio, and Dead Man's Party, just the single popped up, and I'm like, oh yeah, this is really good. I put on the whole album, and I'm like, oh, this fucks pretty hard, and I'm like, oh, this would be good, a good album to do on the podcast.
I appreciate that. Unfortunately, I don't exactly agree.
Oh,
I thought this was also pretty white bread as far as new wave goes.
yeah, it's pretty back standard in terms of new wave. It's everything that you expect, which is why I thought it was like a good thing to bring to the table.
Compared to like a Tism, compared to a Talking Heads, this definitely ranks below those, I think.
Oh, absolutely.
Because I would consider Tism
I
new wave,
would
right?
not disagree with that. Yeah.
Okay. There's stuff in here I do like. Just Another Day, I thought was a really cool beginning. Probably my favorite track on here. A lot of it was very much just like, okay, this is kind of weird and like a it's like the 80s equivalent of like fun, quirky kind of way, like the Manic Pixie Dream Girls kind of became, you know.
Yeah,
Like I'm fun in a quirky kind of way. I wear mismatched socks and I wear Chicago Bears jerseys.
I actually do wear mismatched socks. Be careful there, man.
I also do it well, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, mine is more the case of, oh, I've got a drawer full of socks.
Right, I kind of fold mine, even then lazy. Yeah, what do you like about the album? Like what thing? What song?
Uh, the instrumentation is pretty good. I don't really have like a least favorite track off of this. It's like there's a lot of fun to be had with this album, if you ask me. Like obviously the title track "Dead Man's Party" is a banger,
Hmm.
but if you get into like the weirder stuff like "No One Lives Forever," where it's kind of got like that real fast-paced manic feel,
Hmm.
that and like it gets into like the more kind of creepy Danny Elfman vibes.
Yeah, this album seemed to like go between like creepier and nicer and creepier and more radio friendly, kind of back and forth, back and forth.
Yeah, well, it's the Dead Man's Party.
Like this is definitely like a Halloweeny type of album. I could see this kind of being like a precursor to Nightmare Before Christmas in a way.
Yeah.
Like this came out the same year he started doing that composing work for Pee Wee's Big Adventure, even. So sure, if
Oh
you listen
yeah,
to that, there might be
I
some
forgot
crossover.
he did that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then
Um.
there's his solo album too, which
Yeah.
we at some point I might get into.
I'm down for that. See, the thing is, I guess I thought by doing Paralytic Stalks that you two would he have albums that would easily defeat mine, but I feel like that was not the case this time, at least for me.
Fair enough.
I do think the history of Oingo Boingo is interesting. At least they started out as like this
Yeah,
musical surrealist theater troupe, 30+ people, or at least 15 people, and like 30+ instruments, and like it was started by his brother Richard Elfman, which is interesting.
yeah,
And then Danny kind of came in, slowly transformed it into like a rock group, and like kind of had a revolving door of people coming in and out. And there was a horn section for a
yeah,
long time. I do like that there was a horn section.
yeah. That
Um,
that that is entirely up your alley.
yes, I do kind of wish we were more into the ska part of their discography because this was said to be ska and it really is not.
It's not ska at all.
But I don't know, maybe an earlier album would be more ska. But like, I am interested in the idea of like a ska new wave, weirder kind of thing. But I don't know about this one. But like the Mystic
Yeah,
Knights of
that's fair
Oingo Boingo
enough.
was their name, then it became Oingo Boingo.
And how they got like signed to a record deal is pretty interesting too, because and from what I understand, they just wanted Danny Elfman's solo album,
Oh, interesting. I
but
didn't see
he's
that
like,
one.
yeah, but it's like sign my band and you can have the solo album.
Okay, maybe that was like when they were signed to a major label.
Yeah,
From what I heard about the original signing to IRS Records, at least they kind of just made an EP and sent it around to radio stations. Worked.
yeah, I think it is for the major label. There is also they do have like a major tonal shift later in their discography, and their last album is just like absolute like super creepy Halloween music.
Yeah, from what I was reading, of that last album was very like improvisational and weird with like orchestral stuff.
Yeah, it's pretty weird.
But
Like you go from Only a Lad to Boingo, it is like some whiplash.
yeah, that album was just called Boingo, right?
Yes.
Not been confused with Boingo, the other one with a hyphen in the middle. But
Yes.
yeah, like I'm thinking about some of these songs, like "Same Man I Was Before." It just feels like that's a very just whatever song, like "Same Man I Was Before." Like okay,
Yeah.
like
There's
yeah,
some great bass all over this album, I will say that. Like some great like 80s hi-fi slap bass.
the Weird Science track I was also kind of disappointed by because I feel like that's apparently some kind of big song for them, and I did not feel that at all.
Yeah, it's definitely one of their more well-knowns. Like I want to say like their top 5 tracks are 5 songs off of Dead Man's Party,
Jeez.
and then Only a Lad by off of their first album.
Weird Science feels like an extended dance mix of a song. It just goes on for a long time for no reason.
Yeah, I can understand that.
I mean, people definitely like this album. You know, like songs have been used in different things. Just Another Day was in Stranger Things. Dead Man's Party was in Chuck. Back to School. No One Lives Forever was in Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 for some reason.
Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 is basically just a comedy, so that makes absolute sense.
Never seen any of the Chainsaw Massacres. Apparently, the
It
song "Stay" was huge in Brazil.
Something's always huge in Brazil.
That and the Sega Master System.
Yeah.
Uh,
Come to Brazil, we have the Sega Master System.
Weird Science, of course, used for the movie, later TV show. Yeah, like I can definitely understand if you like this genre that you'd be into something like this. Like I like this genre, but I was amazed at how quickly I just was just like, yeah, this is just another Talking Heads. This is just another Tism. You know,
Yeah, I can give you that.
I feel like new wave has already become such a stereotype in a way. It's supposed to be something different, but that difference has been typified.
Yeah. Wait till we get into like a Devo where it's like you're like, oh, they just wrote the book on all this.
Right. But even Devo, like from what I've listened of Devo and everything, like even that sounds at least unique to them.
Oh yeah,
This has some of that creepy Halloween feel, and I do think that helps. But I don't know. Let's see. There's a line in Just
this
Another
is
Day where I think he says, "I cannot piss the bed."
yeah,
I'm curious what that's about. But I do think that's a good song for Danny Elfman as a singer. It's kind of showing him off.
yeah. I will say this is also kind of like Theater Kid the album.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like it just it gives it, like as a theater kid, it gives off like theater kid vibes. Like I knew kids who would be real into this if they had known about it.
Okay. Yeah, Dead Man's Party is kind of weirder, funkier. It's got the horn section in full force. Yeah, with like a weird instrumental solo time. I feel like a little bit of the ska influences in there mainly because of the horns and stuff, but not really. Heard Somebody
Yeah,
Cry starts off very strong. Got some real deep bass notes in there, I noticed. I Am Not the Ghost Without a Soul is a lyric. That was a decent
yeah.
song, I suppose. No One Lives Forever, of course, is not the video game. I wish it was. This video game was based on this. That'd be great.
I am unfamiliar with the video game, if I'm gonna be honest.
Um, like a Bond girl, but like she's the spy, and it's very like meant to be like a Bond movie. That's like a first-person shooter.
Gotcha. I'll look into it.
It's very infamous for not being re-released because like
Fair
Fox owned it and
enough.
stuff, and Fox and video games has been back and forth.
Yep.
Yeah, No One Lives Forever is definitely where things go a little bit darker, more Halloweeny. There's some
Yeah.
sax on this, which I liked. This is the couple albums this week have some sax, which cool. Really like that.
Yeah. You can never go wrong with some good sax. Got
Yes,
good sax appeal.
some sex and sax appeal. You know,
Yeah.
Stay again, more atmospheric, dark, a slower song, kind of letting you like relax a little bit. I wrote a thing that says I could see a reality where this is one of those top 15 80 songs that gets repeated to death, where Stay is like at
Yeah.
proms and middle school dances. It's not.
It's not though, which is good.
I don't know. I'm into this week. I'm very into imagining alternate realities where these songs are really popular and these albums are killing. I don't know. I get that vibe from that song, and I don't. Is there like a theremin or is that a synth? You know?
Um, it's probably a synth because a theremin is much more like is much less defined.
Okay. Is a theremin analog or digital?
Yes. It's the first electric instrument, and you can get digital ones, but originally they're all like analog and like they just kind of go off of like sensing the field. Like you basically like are completing a circuit with
Okay.
your hand.
Fool's Paradise. I feel like that's where things get a little more rocky, a little more garagey, even more weird singing, but not too weird to be inaccessible, but weird enough to be like, oh, it's interesting.
Yeah.
Help Me. Darker, but not as fun. Reminds me of Huey Lewis. Other than that, I was not very impressed.
If Huey Lewis was, yeah, I actually haven't listened to much Huey Lewis. I really should fix that outside of like the one album we listened to.
Yeah, the one that was pretty much not really completed, but kind of.
Kind of, yeah.
Another sax solo, which I liked. Um,
Yeah.
I don't know. Same Man I Was Before, a sequel to the last song I have. It's another one of those quirkier songs. Not the same boy I was
I like
before.
the
Not the same
like kind
ghost
of
I was
like
before.
I like kind of like the bloopier kind of like bow synth, if that makes like any sense what I'm saying, like the bow 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 bow.
Okay.
You know what I'm
More like staccato notes.
if it, yeah, and it just sounds like there's a guy saying bow.
Okay. Yeah.
Like, I can't explain it other than it just sounds like there's a guy saying bow.
Kind of like in that one song, that chicka chicka song.
Yeah.
Oh, bow, bow, oh, bow, bow, chicka chicka. Weird Science itself, I could hear more horror in that in a way.
Yeah.
Um,
It can always do with more horn.
and horror, kind of horror surf only me almost, or some kind of punk in there.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like again, this is all kind of just capital W weird to me, but not like, oh man,
Weird enough.
yeah.
Yeah, I can understand that.
I don't know. I don't want to like. I'm so. I don't know how these two albums I'm gonna rank them. I feel like I know, but I don't.
Fair enough. How do I'm probably sounding much different. My headphones just died on me.
Oh yeah, you got real muted.
I'm switching to the mic on my phone. I'm gonna charge my headphones up for like 5 minutes.
Yeah, just put a little closer to your mouth if you can.
Yeah, sorry about that.
There we go. Yeah, at least you like Dead Man's Party. Do you have more to like to talk about why you like it, or
I just enjoy the vibe, and I'm an ex-theater kid.
okay, fair enough.
I I'm the ex-theater kid. I'm sure has like more to do with it than you probably think.
Okay. I mean, I did do theater stuff. I wasn't in the theater kid clique, but I was definitely like adjacent. I was in that world a bit.
Yeah, fair enough.
I was in that in like the late 2000s when theater kids I feel like really had their prime.
Yeah.
Like post Black Parade, just everyone feeling feelings and wearing nail
Uh,
polish, going through
my my
puberty.
senior my my senior year, Hamilton came out, so
Of course. I mean, I guess
yeah.
I was in the middle school part of it, but even then, like we had definitely had some drama, definitely had, some stuff going on. It was
Yeah.
very much almost kind of like a cult how dedicated people were.
Oh yeah. Theater kids are basically just miniature cultists.
And the theater adults, like the teachers who are doing this probably for free.
Yeah.
Like the parents who are like helping build sets and spend their own money on this stuff. It's amazing.
Oh yeah.
I remember the kid that was a year behind me, he was Beast in Beauty and the Beast when he was in like 8th grade, and his voice was definitely down there. Then he was already out though, which was the fun part. Yes, I like this combination of just like very much doing the Beast, but also just very flamboyant. It was wonderful.
Yeah, that's a great combo. That is a great combo. My senior year, I was the only baritone in my school's everything.
Yeah. Yeah, I was definitely like when I did wrestling for a year, I was the only one in my weight class. When I did chorus for a year, I was the only one really in my range. I can't remember if it
Yeah.
was a bass or baritone, probably a bass. I don't remember. Either way, I wasn't either good at either thing, but I definitely fit in a slot that they needed somebody.
Yeah.
Yeah, but then high school came around and I was like, I don't really care enough to do theater stuff like that, but I do like film. But yeah,
Yeah.
you seem to have gone with the theater kid track a little bit more.
Yeah, I definitely did. I mean, I was Shrek, so
Right, when were you Shrek again?
right after I graduated.
In like a
So,
school show or a national tour or what?
it was like just one local show. Like there was a historic theater. They actually filmed a scene from Titanic there because they had the sister staircase to the one that's on the Titanic.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, and so it's like this historic theater. It's called the Stanley Theater in Utica, and the place is haunted as shit, but it was really cool.
Okay.
I I did the show blind because I couldn't wear my glasses,
Oh
and
God.
at one point I had to run through the audience carrying a step ladder, and then climb up it, and then jump onto the stage
Oh God.
without my glasses in a giant Shrek costume.
That sounds awful.
It it worked, but
Yeah, I remember as
I definitely played up the physical comedy of that one.
as you should, as you should. I remember when I was doing a film school project. We went to this haunted, abandoned church in Gary, Indiana, and
Gary, Indiana is a shithole.
yes, the church had like burnt down in the '70s, I want to say, and it's just been like abandoned and just left there to just be in its decrepit state for decades. And film crews filmed there apparently a bunch. Sense8 was filmed there. One of the Transformers films was filmed there.
That's cool.
But it's just like this abandoned church. You go in, and it's like, man, that staircase really collapsed. Man, there's just debris everywhere.
Yeah.
And we just shot in there for an entire day. And yeah, I was a PA, so I was just manning the craft table and making sure no one tried to go on the second floor. And of course, people still did.
Yep. They all kids will always do that.
Well, we were in college, but even then, it was like, of course, people are still doing.
You're still kids in college. You're kids until you're like 25.
Sure.
The haunted thing that I experienced is part of the Stanley Theater, like the side rooms, used to be, I think, this like hospital that at one point burned down with a bunch of patients inside of it,
Fun.
attached to an already haunted theater, where like you could see figures in the back row.
So it was a theater and hospital at one point.
Well, the hospital was like right next door to the theater, I think.
Oh, and they just built over it.
Yeah, and it burnt the hospital burnt down, and they just kind of like, we're taking the space.
Yeah, I feel like the church may also have had some casualties in that fire. I'm not exactly sure.
And so I was in one of those like side rooms, like just practicing with the other lead, Fiona, and the musical director.
Mhm.
And I forget which song we were running through because I shit my pants pretty much. But the keyboard amp was like firmly on the shelf, and like
Mhm.
it wouldn't have moved at all, but it just flew 6 feet at me, to my feet.
Wow.
And like I have no explanation for it other than like, oh, that's just ghosts.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, I've had some stuff disappear on me here and there, but never seen enough activity to say ghosts. I wish I could have some unexplainable stuff like that. That would at least be interesting to talk about.
Yeah, it's that is like my one paranormal story. Oh, and also apparently when I was a kid, I used to talk to a slave ghost.
What?
Yeah, so we used to live in a real haunted place apparently, where I would talk to the little brown boy who was like an old slave kid from like the 1800s, because like apparently our house was like a spot on like the Underground Railroad or something,
Uh-huh.
on like the trip to Canada. And like there was like a ghost cat too that my father saw at one point.
What?
Yeah,
That's incredible.
yeah. Like I'm not making this up. This is like stuff that like happened when I was like real little.
How long did this relationship last with this ghost?
Um, I was probably like 2 or 3 at the time, and it didn't last probably very long.
But like you would just talk to it.
Yeah.
Oh wow. Did it respond? Do you know?
I don't remember.
Okay, interesting.
And another thing is that whenever something went missing in that house, it would end up just in the middle of the bedroom, and in the bed,
Huh.
like just in my parents' bed, just like in the middle of it.
Interesting. Do
Yeah.
you have any dogs or cats?
We had I believe 1 or 2 cats at the time,
So there's at least a plausible explanation there.
and we think the one cat saw the ghost cat,
Yeah.
because at one point it was just hissing at nothing with just its just arched, like doing the cat thing.
Hmm. So you definitely have some more experience with the paranormal than I do.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. I don't know. Again, I wish I could have some of that, but we just talk about horror stuff on the podcast. I guess that's about
Yeah.
it. This would be a very good October episode, but the way I've been going might be uploaded before. Either way.
Either way, get
Um.
into that Halloween spirit early.
Ooh. Ooh.
I'm switching back to my headset.
Rix, are you there?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Speak a little louder.
Can you hear me now?
There we go.
Back on the headset. There we go.
Back on the headset. All right, favorites and least favorites, unless you have anything else to say about Dead Man's Party.
Nah, nothing really to talk about Dead Man's Party other than I like it, and I'll probably do more Oingo Boingo.
That's fine. I hope the other albums for me are better than this.
Yeah, this is probably like the best starting place for them.
This is also their most successful album, so I'm not entirely sure which way it's going to go for me.
Yeah, maybe we'll go with Boingo next. I don't know. I'll
Which
have to I'll
Boingo?
have to do some listening. The later one.
All right, so favorites from me, we're probably talking. Well, definitely Just Another Day. I think that song's actually pretty good, but nothing else really lives
Yeah,
up to it for me. So maybe Dead Man's Party just by default, or Stay is kind of all right. Worst song for me is probably Help Me or Same Man I Was Before.
fair enough. I don't really have a least favorite, and like a bunch of them stick out to me as like, oh, I really like that one. Like the whole like latter half of the album really sticks out for me.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, I thought the second half was definitely weaker than the first. Weird Science might
I
be my most disappointing for sure. I don't know if it's my least favorite, but it's most disappointing.
that's fair enough.
Do you have any top? Like, if you could name one or two.
Like you're not a fan of it. I'm a fan of Same Man I Was Before.
Okay.
Let me pull up the list again. Just my phone has face grease on it. Um, Stay. I like. No One Lives Forever is a fucking jam.
No One Lives
Uh,
Forever.
yeah, it's just a good album all around, if you ask me.
Yeah, maybe that song's not bad either. Maybe that's more of my favorites. No, but that is that album. And now we go on to the album I was for sure thinking would be near the bottom of this week, but has surprised me once again. Of Montreal's Paralytic Stalks.
Yes, this is quite possibly one of the weirdest things I've listened to, which is saying something.
This was my introduction to Montreal. This was the latest album out.
Yes.
Now, I think way before we did this podcast, we had this thing where we shared four albums that really meant something to us, right?
Something like that.
And I remember my list was like Audio Video Disco by Justice, Crystal Castles, Aeroplane Over the Sea, of course, and this one. This one just for introducing me to Montreal, a lot of indie rock, just everything in that scene. Like it being this my onboarding point for sure, just shaping my ideas of what music could be, what music could do. Now,
Understandable.
like I told you earlier, one of these songs is my favorite of Montreal song. One of these is in my top 5. One of these is in my top 10, if not top 15. Can you
All
figure out
right.
which ones are which?
Let me pull up the list again. Hold on. Let's see here. Gonna guess that is- uh, we will commit wolf murder up there.
That is top 5.
Gotcha. Um, one of my favorites was Malefic Dowry.
Okay, that's not one of the 3, but I do respect that one as well.
Um, it was one of the last two like real weird jam tracks, like Exorcismic Breeding Knife or Authentic Ferric Remission up there.
No, but I do really like the beginning of Authentic Pyrrhic Remission. I think that beginning, like where it's like a Montreal song before it shifts, is really good.
Yeah.
But
Um,
anything else you want to guess?
Spiteful Intervention.
No. So
Yeah, I don't know them.
my favorite song of Montreal's discography is "Ye Renew the Plaintiff." I think
Ah,
that is their best example of their long song structure and their dynamic changes and how it just can all come together to make something that's really interesting and really different for them even.
that's fair.
Like, and then my top 15, Dower Percentage. That song is also
Gotcha.
just really cool.
Yeah, I'll
Like,
give you that.
that's
It's
really funky
it,
one.
it's a weird album, but like
Yes.
there's some interesting jams on here.
Again, 4.6 on Pitchfork. Anthony Fantano gave it a 7. Produced by Drew Vandenberg, who I believe also did Lousy with Sylvia and Breyer, and also
Yep.
worked for Deer Hunter. So definitely within our circle of interest.
Indeed.
But this, yeah, like this is such a like post false priest, post like the hissing fauna skeletal lapping stuff. It's striking to me how different this one is even still.
Yeah, it is really weird.
I've heard from music theory people it's like huge weird.
Yeah, I could not make much sense out of much of any of this if I'm gonna be real. I'm not huge into music theory, but like I know a bit, and like I was confused. Like, ooh,
How so were you confused?
there is just a lot going on, and like I can't even really like put it into words. Like this album just fucks with your brain in a weird way.
It's a lot of different things kind of mixed together. Kind of I think what they were trying to go for the entire time, but like taken to the nth degree.
Yeah,
I know Kevin Barnes was talking about I can't remember which but they were talking about basically a lot of like modern classical musicians that they were listening to as inspiration.
yeah, I can definitely see there's some like expressionist vibes to this.
Like very avant-garde, like almost Jeff Mangum's sound collage. Like something
Yeah,
like Exorcismic Breeding Knife is very just like a very much of a panic attack almost.
yeah,
If I could
a
describe
panic
like
attack's a good way.
taking us into the context of everything Kevin was doing with like Georgie Fruit and that whole cycle of album, what this album feels to me is the big like waking up moment, right? Where
Yeah,
Gillet Ascent, Spiteful Intervention, which are still in that vein, kind of, and we're kind of working our way towards stuff that's more, I don't know, radio friendly or different, like just different kind of pop songs that are not the same, but still kind of that vibe of Montreal. And we get to like Guy Renew the Plaintiff, which is like the climax, kind of like how Past is a Grotesque Animal is a climax, Hissing Fauna, where there's like a
yeah,
big transformation, sound and energy. That's kind of the point where this extended episode that Kevin's been kind of burns off. Then you get into the real calmness, the real just like downer part of like Winter Debts. That's kind of like the come down. And then like Exorcism like Breeding Knife is kind of like the wake up into reality of what has happened, what has gone on this entire time. I'm just now reawakened to what the world actually is.
yeah,
Then Authentic Peer Commission is kind of like a relapse in a way, but also kind of like a look to the future. I don't know. There's a lot happening, I feel like. It's like you said, very hard to describe, but
yeah,
it's a mix of just like a harder rock sound, kind of art rocky. There's still like a lot of pop stuff, but it's really just it's just yeah. This the tracks at the end of the album are just jam sessions. They're just like real obtuse, just weird tracks.
yeah. I feel like H.P. Lovecraft trying to describe an indescribable horror, describing this album. I'm gonna be honest. I
Like
mean that in like a good way.
we talk about albums that end in like those ambient atmospheric tracks, Distillers, or On Avery Island, or any other number of ones. Slaughterhouse by Ty Segall Band had it even.
Yeah,
This album is bold enough to have two of them in a row. And I think they're two of the most interesting ones that exist.
indeed.
Especially because Exorcismic Breeding Knife, if I can say it right, is like it's just like a it starts out very avant-garde and weird and ambient, and then it's just that for 7 minutes or so, and then it ends in like a little piano thing, doesn't it?
Yeah,
Then Authentic Pure Commission kind of does the same thing a little bit, where it begins as an Of Montreal kind of normal sound, then also goes into this very. It's different. It's not exactly like a sound collage avant-garde experience. This one's more of layered sound, a lot of just classical things happening almost. Just it's a really weird sound symphony in a way. And
yeah.
again
It's
ends in like a little piano ballad or something.
yeah,
It's very very strange. But I really want to appreciate because like starting here, it's kind of hard to like wrap your mind around. To somebody who has not been into this from the very beginning, I'm sure it's just like a fucking what the fuck is happening.
Yeah, like I'm sure if I just like played this for like one of my friends just to be like, hey, listen to Montreal, start a Paralytic Stalks, they would never fucking talk to me again.
Actually, I was wrong. Exercise like Reading Knife does not end in a piano ballad. It's Winter Debts that ends in a piano ballad, and also Authentic Pure Commission still does. But
Yeah.
I mean, I would be the friend who would be into it because I think some of these songs really are their best work.
Yeah, it is some great music, but like at the same time, ooh, it is difficult to get into, but in like a good way.
I think We Will Commit Wolf Murder is probably one of their most radio friendly, straight poppy, not even like of Montreal sounding hits, or it should be a hit. It's a
Yeah.
fucking jam of a song.
Yeah, it's a pretty good song. It's a pretty good song. There are a lot of like sleeper hits on this album,
And like Ye Renew the
like
Plaintiff. Go ahead.
I was gonna say bust out the 160 gig stoner iPod Classic and just play some sleeper hits. I don't know where I was going with this.
I don't know. Ye Renew the Plaintiff, like I was saying, it's just such a interesting song. Like it is some of the most hard rock star Kevin Barnes you get.
Hmm.
They are fully like going in a direction that I think you would never expect. You can see them up on that stage, like doing that rock star strut, like really going at these lyrics in a way that's very interesting because this is of Montreal. This is the people who put out Cherry Peel. They put out Satanic Panic in the Attic.
Yeah.
And this like this drastic change where it's this really strange, these just dynamic songs that constantly shift and do different things and somehow still create an effect. Like I really like, again, I've said this before, Kevin Barnes is one of the most interesting musicians alive
Definitely.
to come up with all of this stuff. And then like
Yeah.
Dour Percentage is a song I came to later as being more interested in it because it's weirder and it has a lot more like funky things going on. Hey, let me just look at my notes for some of this because there's so much to like
Well,
absorb.
while you do that, I will say I listened to this album on a drive today, and it is not driving music, but it's interesting.
Yeah, like something like Authentic Peer Commission, I could not see being like a good driving song.
It is not.
Because that just has like kind of keeping in like the Halloween theme. It just kind of has like horror strings and horror stings and stuff a little bit.
Yeah.
Let's go through the album a little bit though. We got Gilded Ascent, which has is kind of like a delayed opening. Yeah, again, you hear kind of like that song in Temper Trap. It's like a little bit of a bass and the low that's really low in the mix. And then it just comes at you all of a sudden like a flurry of drums. You got some vocals.
Yeah.
Then it just gets very psychedelic real fast. It just slows down and it's like, okay, they're really going into like psychedelic rock this time.
Hmm.
And I'm thinking of like, it's not the same, but I'm thinking of like Lennon Claypool. I'm thinking of the stuff that you've put on, how this can relate to that stuff.
Yeah.
It definitely feels like some sort of acid trip in a way. And I know that's like such an easy thing to say when you're talking about music.
Yeah.
Going from False Priest, which did you listen to that Tonight track by the way?
No, I didn't end up. I completely forgot. My bad.
That's okay. But I like False Priest a lot. False Priest has just a very good R&B feel. It kind of gets heavier toward the end, but it's overall like a pretty lighter album with like some really good features on it and stuff. And then you go from that
Yeah.
into this song, and it's like this song really is just balls to the wall right away. Like
Indeed.
there's an honest to god guitar solo. Production is just majestic like always. And then there's like Spiteful Intervention, which is probably one of the stranger songs, I think. Somehow it's also like one of the songs I've heard most outside of the album. Like I remember Spiteful Intervention being in that James Franco movie, This Is the End.
Yeah, I have been meaning to watch it if I'm gonna be honest. I know it's not great, but like apparent I forget if it was that movie or a different one that has Michael Cera slapping Rihanna's ass as hard as he
That
can.
is this movie.
Yeah, I need to watch it pretty much just for that scene.
I was a big fan of it because it came out when I was in like high school or just after high school. And I just remember I was into Montreal a lot at the time and I just heard Spiteful Intervention. And I'm like, number one, I'm like, wow, of Montreal in the soundtrack, that's really cool. Two, why this
Yeah.
song?
Yeah.
because this is just kind of the one where Kevin's like kind of screaming and like screeching a little bit. It's it's I don't even know what to exactly call this song. It's kind of um it's dark, it's gritty, it's got some vocal harmonies, but it's kind of more of a piano thing. I don't know. It feels more of just like a direct confessional kind of song, as if Yoko Ono had conducted it,
Yeah.
but in a good way. Like it's
Yeah,
not
I'll give you
exactly
that.
pop. It's not exactly like a harder rock song. It's just kind of a weird beat that Kevin is just emoting over.
Yeah.
It feels kind of like probably closer to an older Of Montreal song of any of them, but even then, like there's some stuff in there you can read into about like apparently how Nina smashed up their studio at one point, and kind of goes into the relationship problems that Nina and Kevin had during their marriage. So there's some stuff there that's interesting. One thing this album does a lot is it's just kind of like songs like to end on just like one piano note. If you noticed,
Yeah.
it's just like it just kind of there's like a lot swirling and swelling around, and all of a sudden it's just like bing, then it moves on.
Yeah, it's like a good way to like kind of like clear the air, get things settled. I can
Mm-hmm.
see that.
But then you have Dollar Percentage, which I kind of really love, and that's where you get the flutes. That is where you get the sax going. Like there is so much fucking flutes on this song. Every line of the chorus is accompanied by like a flurry of flutes,
Hmm.
and there's just so many things happening, so many instruments, and it just kind of starts really going toward that harder direction where it's still funky and stuff. It's still kind of going back to that false pre skeletal lamping stuff a little bit, but there's
Yep.
like the organic and live instruments really help it. And
Yeah.
then We Will Commit Wolf Murder is so fucking good. God, like I don't know. Like Kevin has such a huge range to put out a song like We Will Commit Wolf Murder, which is just a beautiful song, and
Yeah.
uh, there's just so much going on in the production, all the different layers, and like it feels like a dream, like a really good dream you're having. But there's always the kind of that thing that's lingering in the background that you know it's gonna shift, it's gonna change. There's gonna be something bad that happens, and of course, the end of the song is where that turn finally happens, and it's the person wakes up and there's blood in my hair, and you just know some shit happened. It gets very
Yeah.
dissonant toward the end. And the Malefic Dowry happens, which you like a lot. It's just an acoustic song.
Yeah.
It's just a very pretty acoustic song. It's like one of the shorter songs that they've done at this point in a long time. It's like 2.5 minutes. And there's a lot of like woodwinds happening. Then the darkness returns. Get to Ye Renew the Plaintiffs, which I just took a ton of notes for because holy shit. Like the chorus, the climax of the song actually comes pretty early, and like I think like this song is the most perfectly paced of any of Montreal song, in that it's almost 9 minutes long, but it does not feel that long at all.
No, it does not.
Like it just keeps moving and shifting and changing to the point where it's like even the end where it's just swelling and swelling and swelling and coming to a point, it never feels overextending itself. It never feels like it's at any point sidestepped or extended just a bit too long. You get trombones, you get a good sax solo in there.
Yeah.
Oh, and then Winter Deaths goes. Winter Deaths is also interesting because that's where you get into like the country stuff. That's where you start getting into the lousy with Sylvia and Breyer folky kind of sound that they eventually went for.
Yeah.
Where you get like some of that twang and those steel pedals and stuff.
I'm excited to get into that.
Well, I mean that's lousy with Sylvia and Breyer. We already did that,
Yeah.
but like Winter Deaths kind of
Well, the
has
the
that.
the in between is what I'm saying.
Yeah, Daughter of Cloud. When we get to that, that'll be very interesting. I am so down for that. Because I was just listening to
Yeah.
it today, just randomly, and it's like there's a lot of good songs on here still.
Yeah.
Winter Deaths is kind of where the album stops being the traditional album, and it just starts becoming jams, and it's just a whole different beast. You get Extrasensitive Reading Knife, you get Authentic Care Commission, and it's just 9 tracks, but it's just a completely different experience by the end. If you can listen to it and you can stand going through basically 20 minutes just unbridled things happening, I think it's pretty worth
Yeah.
it. But it's a hard album to get into. Somehow I got into it as my first of Montreal album and stuck with
Which
it.
that's impressive.
Oh, I think I fell back to False Priest like right away, but I also loved like Wolf Murder and Renew the Plaintiff off of this, and then it just kind of kept building and building my interest and kind of expanding from there. But yeah, I came in I think at a perfect time for me. Reading about this album, Kevin seemed to be really going for some different feels. They were talking about how they were reading stuff like Hubert Selby Jr. in the lead up to making this album, and
Yep.
like this, like I was into that. Like there was a thing about Susan Sarandon showing up at Montreal concerts and doing some stage performance for them,
That's interesting.
spanking a guy as like that was dressed like a pig, and like I was a huge Rocky Horror fan. I was huge into Hubert Selby Jr., like Requiem for a Dream kind of stuff. I was huge into
Yeah.
like things that seemed offbeat and obscure and just weird, you know. I was that kind of hipster. So this album was perfect in a way.
Yeah. Yeah, I get you.
Like this is definitely like the end of like the Georgie Fruit stuff. This is like shifting into something completely different.
Yeah.
And like like Daughter of Cloud kind of has the real finale of that stuff, but it's so interesting to see just how their sound shifts. Yeah, this is the thing I've been waiting to get to this entire time. Of like I was gonna just do this album and be done with it, but I was like, you know what? Let's go through the whole thing. Let's listen to the whole journey to get.
Yeah, it would be like just Ritz doing just microphones in 2020 without doing the Glow Part 2 and A Crow Looked at Me.
Right. I feel like you need that setup to really appreciate what this album is.
Yeah.
And then, like, I think you need Daughter of Cloud, then you appreciate kind of the loop back into Lousy with Sylvia and Briar even more. This was a really weird time to be into Montreal because you could see that the sound was already so different. Then the sound itself was about to shift in such a major, major, major way.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know of any other artist that really does it like this. Can you think of anyone that has such successful and dynamic shifts?
Um well, I mean, there's King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard, but they still kind of stick to like their psychedelic genre.
Right.
Um
Like maybe
huh,
David Bowie?
maybe David Bowie.
Yeah, because I know David
Prince.
Bowie had some like the '80s were different than the '60s, or different than the '70s, and newer stuff. Newer stuff. You know, it's
eh,
his career was quite prolific, different, interesting.
Prince, I believe, too.
Yeah, yeah. So it's been done, but I feel like Kevin is just very successful at it, and it doesn't always have to work for you. Like I don't necessarily like a lot of early on Montreal, but I think just having
Yeah.
those different pockets that you can latch onto. How Ritz only likes skeletal lamping and lousy with Sylvia and Briar, and that's fine. That's cool.
Yeah.
But there's always something for everybody. I feel like with Montreal, and that's kind of why I like covering them. It's always just a great check-in of like, okay, where are we now? What's going on? What's happening?
Yeah, I can respect that.
Do you have anything else you want to say about this album?
It's a fun album. I don't think it's my favorite of Montreal album, but I enjoyed it, and I'll probably come back to it.
Yeah, it's not my favorite either, but it's definitely one I come back to quite a bit because it just is meaningful to me. It's that way of understanding music, how it shifts and changes. Again, favorites for me: "Ye Renew the Plaintiff," top all-time favorite of Montreal song. "We Will Commit Wolf Murder," "Dower Percentage," great, great, great tracks. Love them. Least favorite, probably like I don't know, probably one of the last three. Maybe Exorcismic Breeding Knife or Winter Depths. I really like the beginning of Authentic
Yeah,
Heroic Remission, so I can't exactly say that one, but one of those two probably.
I don't really have a least favorite, and I don't really have a favorite, but it's a fun album.
It's an experience.
Yeah, I guess maybe if I had to say a favorite, Malefic Dowry.
Yeah, okay. I respect that. So, how do we rank this?
I think I got my ranking. I think I'm going. I'll go first, I guess.
Sure.
Uh, number two, number one, number three is the Temper Traps Conditions. It was a bit too milk toast for me. Number two is going to be of Montreal,
Mhm.
Paralytic Stalks. I liked it, but I don't think I'm going to come back to it as much as I will with Oingo Boingo. And number one is Oingo Boingo, Dead Man's Party.
Yeah. Yeah, I think number three for me will be Temper Trap, ultimately, because I think it's just not a very strong album. Like, there's a couple good songs. Even then, it's not super
Yeah.
consistent. Even
Yep.
where I don't know if I necessarily like Dead Man's Party more necessarily, but it's a more consistent album and the production is more impressive.
Yeah.
Like there's like you can appreciate that it's a band with a horn section, you gotta love that.
Yeah. You gotta love horns.
Right. And then of course for me, Montreal has to be number one, just because production is amped up even more, and has some of my favorite songs from their entire discography. Like it's not like it's a very wide ranging album. It's not consistent at all, but intentionally made to be that way, I think. And
Yeah.
like I said, I really thought this would be like the week to really beat it. You would both of you would like shove something in my face where it's like undeniable that this would be a number 3, but to me it's number 1.
Fair enough. Let's get into picks for next week because I think I have a clear runner for number 3.
Yeah, tell us about it.
This is actually an album I discovered the night or the morning of I was waiting to get approved for my hormones.
Okay.
So it's got like a weird attachment for me, but it's a good album. And because next episode for us is episode 69,
Nice.
I feel like I have to go kind of horny.
Okay.
And so I am doing Methwax's self-titled debut.
Methwax by Methwax.
Yes.
Methwax, you doth protest too much. Ritz has decided to do a band called Machine Gun Fellatio, and
Yep.
their album, is it Paging Mr. Strike? Yeah, Paging Mr. Strike by Machine Gun Fellatio, another very sexy comedic band. I feel like maybe like a Tism, or in a different direction than that.
Yeah.
Like very, like their live shows were supposedly very like up off the wall and stuff. So that'll be interesting. And then
Yep.
for me, speaking of David Bowie, what better way to follow up an album you can't really describe with another really avant-garde art rock album that's very interesting and hard to describe at times? We're doing David Bowie's Black Star.
Indeed.
Get ready to cry.
Also, I'd like to mention that Methwax has kind of returned to form for me because it's surf punk.
Methwax, surf punk, excellent, love it.
Yes.
I've been waiting to cover David Bowie's Black Star for a while as well, since we've also covered Curl Looked at Me and Carrie and Lowell. So this is all just coming together for me. This is always the album I wanted to do after Paralytic Stalks. Glad we got here.
Gotcha.
The saxophones and both of them are very, very good. It's just one reminded me of the other.
Gotcha.
All right. So next week, just to recap, David Bowie's Black Star, Machine Gun Fellatio's Paging Mr. Strike, and Methwax's self-titled debut album, Methwax.
Yes.
Any final words to say before we wrap it up, Trix?
No.
All right. Well, that's Dissonant Waves for you this episode. Episode 68 is in the can. I've been Dominic.
Yes.
You can catch me on Twitter at DACICHOCKI. I'm also on YouTube, Dominic Chikoki, but I don't really post anything. I've written for tiltingwindmillstudios.com, but yeah, I haven't written there lately. You can read some old stuff, though.
Yep. I've been Procrastinaut. Follow me at Procrastinaut_. And then all of us at Dissonant Waves and Dissonant Waves That Space.
Yeah, we'll link Ritz's stuff in the description as usual. He's not on Twitter, though.
Yep.
That'll do it for us, though. Have a great day, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye.